So, 21st Century IAS Academy is starting Mains 2022 program, focusing on writing practice, and from now onwards we will have 80 days till your examination. So, this is a mission mode program. The program is a 12-hour program starting at morning 4:30. So, our mentors are ready here to guide you in all the aspects of writing practice. So, this is a daily program. Every day you will be having will be given a particular topic in a particular subject, and each subject would be handled by a mentor. A senior faculty would also act as a mentor, and they will tell you on a particular they will tell you about how to handle different topics based on the previous year questions and the possible questions that may be given in the coming examination. So, every day one unit will be given from all the four papers, and the candidates would be guided with several answer hints as well. And the candidate will have almost 12 to 15 hours of study, and the candidate at the end of the day will have to write an answer based on the questions given by the candidate, by the mentors. On the next day itself, the mentor will evaluate the papers and will give you the feedback based on the answers that you have given. So, based on this program, let us talk to our mentors. So, this is a mentors meet for the mission mode 80 days program that will be started every day at 4:30 in the morning. So, Sreedhar sir, please let me know about how the questions on the history would be given, because there are 5 areas related to the history, including the culture and world history, post independent India, modern India, and also some national movement related aspects. So, these 5 areas, how the questions will be given and how they were asked in the previous years.
Yeah. So, thanks. See, basically history accounts for, if you see last 10 years papers, 8-9 years papers, the number of marks allotted to history in GS paper ranges from 40 to 70. There are times when 60 to 70 marks or whatever that has come, and also we have about 30-40 marks for it. So, the aspirants or a candidate who is writing mains will have to devote a good time for history, and the questions have been diverse. See, in ancient and culture parts, we have questions predominantly on art and architecture and philosophy, and also on social aspects. For example, we have questions on the Gandhara, Mathura and Amravati schools, the post-Mauryan period art and architectural developments that have been asked. Then Cholas, Vijayanagara literature also, once they have asked also Vijayanagara literature growth, though it is Telugu literature, generally students do not expect it. And so, the point is one is religion and philosophy as part of culture. Then there are also questions on differences between Hinayana and Mahayana. We also have questions like some interesting developments, for example, Dharmasastras. If you see Dharmasastras, what kind of prescriptions they gave to women, like that, literature. So, literature related to society, there have been questions, and even in medieval India, there are questions which are likely on some important landmark events. For example, we have battles of Panipat. While the questions on exact battle of Panipat, who won, who lost, may not be asked, there are interesting ways of UPSC framing the questions. For example, we have 3 battles of Panipat, all important battles, first, second and third, 1526, 56 and 1556 and 1761. Why all important battles are fought at Panipat? That kind of questions, So, it is not that one should only read 1526 battle of Panipat, but
is it having any geographical?
Yes, of course, because see, Delhi is almost like a landlocked situation. So, if somebody is attacking Delhi, so they always proceed forward to wait and to face the enemy, because there are 2 reasons. One, politically capital is very, very important. The point is that people will not allow enemy to come up to the capital, because if something goes wrong, whole thing will be lost. That is one thing. Strategically, the entry to Delhi at Panipat is narrow. Okay, we have one hill on one side. So if you stand this side, you can stop the enemy from a narrow point of view. It is simply like this. If you are sitting there, if somebody is attacking you, if they are attacking from all sides, it is difficult to stop them. But if there is a narrow path, it is very easy to hold them. So there is a strategic, geographic as well as political reasons for people advancing to Panipat. So anybody who wants to defend Delhi will go and wait Panipat the moment we know that somebody is attacking. So obviously the candidates would need to go read between the lines and try to understand what questions are expected. And of course, post independent India as well as freedom movement, instead of trying to identify what actually is the political aspects or the factual points. For example, Quit India movement is there. Quit India movement is, everybody knows that it is the final, before INA trials and Royal Indian Naval Mutiny, that is the final Gandhian movement. So can we say Quit India is only violently non-violent or non-violently violent movement? Is it a departure from the Gandhian paradigm of non-violence? Because of course all the students who are preparing, and you will also know, that Gandhi never condemned violence in Quit India movement. It is a major departure from the Gandhian strategy of non-violence. So Gandhi even said during the Quit India movement to Britishers when he was in jail, that if you put a cat in a room, that will also violently retaliate, so I can't condemn the violence. So there is a very interesting ways the questions can be framed, and if somebody writes with this kind of analysis, I am sure they would get a very, very high marks in history. And all these segments, whether it is world history or whether it is essay also, there are sometimes history related questions are being picked up. So what is important is to expect what kind of questions that can be asked. They are becoming unconventional. So last exam papers say from 2013 onwards, a better analysis of the questions and a prediction of what is likely, and of course enriching the conceptual and analytical aspects have to be done in history.
So Sreedhar sir, regarding the history, regarding geography should also be studied in connection with the paper 3 concepts of environment, ecology and biodiversity, because what is being studied as a part of part 3, paper 3, like pollution and other things, were also asked in the paper 1. So what is your suggestions regarding the preparation for the upcoming examination?
Yes sir, there is in paper 1 of general studies, keeping aside the general essay, in paper 1 of general studies we are having the core geographical elements. The geography at its core level of physical geography, economical geography and human geography has been asked. That has been segregated into 4 headings, Indian geography into 2 headings and world geography into 2 headings. Once the core geographical aspect has been understood in paper 1 of this examination, this main syllabus, then it has to be integrated and applied with that of the disaster or the ecological or the agriculture and cropping patterns of paper 3 of our syllabus. So while reading, after clearing the prelims, generally students will think about the mains examination after clearing the prelims. They are having some kind of this misconception that let the prelims has to be cleared first. So whatever those students are the original pattern of or the actually desired pattern of working for this civil services examination, there should be an integrated approach of integrating multiple subjects, thinking the same concept in multiple subject orientation is much desired, and that was intended to do that. So in case of geography, when we study how volcanoes are formed, what are the mechanism of earthquakes, then immediately after reading the earthquakes in core geography, we have to integrate that in the disaster management of paper 3. There we are having what are the disaster management architecture we are having, how to handle the earthquakes, what are the do's and do nots while the quakes are coming, what are the measures has to be taken, what are the measures that government has to be taken, what should be the architecture, and what are the roles and responsibilities of various agencies including NGOs has been already very well provided. And for that we are having disaster management cycle, And for that, we are with the help of other technological agencies, we have already prepared the seismological map or hazardous map of India. So, when we are reading earthquake in core geography, different types of waves and what is the tremors are measuring the earthquakes, parallelly student has to study with that Indian seismic zones, how the India has been divided and what are the different types of earthquakes, intensity and how we are having disaster management. For instance, we are having recently 2 days back, very severe earthquake has hit Afghanistan, that was in Hindu Kush mountains. Just a matter of 50 kilometers or 30 kilometers from Kabul city. That death toll has been increased and that has been increasing more than 1000. Yesterday, the government of India extended its humanitarian support also. In this context, after nearly 8 or 10 months, we resumed our diplomatic operations with that of Afghanistan. After Afghanistan taking over by the Taliban, we stopped that diplomatic relations with that. So, from yesterday onwards, we again resumed our diplomatic efforts. In this context, generally examiner basic level question, why most of the earthquakes are happening in this Himalayan mountain belt? This is basic question that we can expect. Second type of question that can be integrated with that of economy or disaster management, it will be asked like this. Why most of the earthquakes are occurring in Himalayan belt only, and what are the measures we are having with respect to handling this earthquake and Disaster Management Act 2005. This is second level. Third level of asking question from the same area is, what are the criticism of Disaster Management Act 2005 and what are the other measures you suggest for the efficient handling of disaster management? This is third level question. Higher level question is, what are the international obligations, agreements, bilateral treaties we are having while handling the disaster management, and what are the international efforts and what are the international agencies and coordination among India and international agencies in handling man-made or natural disasters. This is the higher level way of asking the question. So, as you said, while we are reading the core geography, you have to parallelly, and that is not a separately taken issue also. So, while we are reading the geography core element here, you have to parallelly apply there in disaster management and also the ecology environment. And we have many instances, many examples. So, since 2012, we have all the list of questions based on microscopically segregated topic wise questions. In those, in that questions, a single trend has been understood. Year 2016 has been declared by United Nations as the year of pulses. And in 2017 mains examination, it was asked what are the advantages of cultivating the pulses. In 2014, there was a severe flood in Uttarakhand. In 2015, question was asked, the Uttarakhand, Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh reached its optimal level of tourism. So, this question was asked. So, recently Tonga earthquake was there. So, we can expect the question on the volcano and the Pacific rim of belt. Earthquakes were there, the questions based on earthquake can be asked. So, when we have a complete understanding of the current orientation and geographical phenomena, what happening in the previous year, in the continuous year, then we can easily predict the questions and that can be integrated, and we will suggest the student how to integrate that core element while reading, while writing and while picking the content during the examination also. We will suggest all this. And certainly, there is a complete coordination and there should be proper coordination nexus between the core geography and also the paper 3 of our main syllabus also.
So, Dr. Vivek, and with the reference to the ethics paper, we have two sections, theory section and the case study section. The fundamental general ethical dimensions, what we call as common sense ethics, is not useful to be presented in the answers. So, we need to have a knowledge of law, constitution and civil service conduct rules. So, how the candidate can integrate these things into the answers in the ethics paper, and can we expect any contemporary issues to be reflected in the ethics paper?
Yes, sir. So, before talking about ethics, I just want to re-emphasize what you have already told regarding, and also reinforce the significance of waking up early, sir. According to me, one of the most challenging aspect which most of the students preparing for mains face is consistency in writing answers. Here what we are trying to do is kind of motivating them or inspiring them to wake up early, start their day early and start the day with something very inspiring, very challenging, and we are instilling in them this habit of not just waking up early, but starting the day with the most important thing that is supposed to be done to clear this examination comfortably, that is writing answers. So, I hope students have to make maximum use of such an initiative and what we are providing, and we are trying to handhold. We have given them a micro schedule, topic wise schedule, and also we are preparing questions based on those topics, and we are giving answer hints on those specific questions. And I believe if students meticulously adhere to this schedule and take it seriously and write every single test without failure, I am very confident that they could get the highest possible scores in the general studies, sir. And coming to the question you have asked me with regards to ethics, of course, sir, ethics, as you have said, apart from general observation and what is happening around us, the so called common sense ethics, the term which you have rightly used, there are also questions which are coming from governance ethics, environmental ethics, and some technology aspect, also ethical aspects related to introduction of technology, and these kind of things are also being asked, sir. One beauty of this subject ethics is it kind of has complementarity with every single topic in the syllabus. Let it be Indian society, let us say a question on live-in relationship, it also has an ethical component embedded in it. And let us say a question called as technological governance, whether we have to bring certain technology into the society or not, that also has an ethical component embedded in it. Similarly, science and technology, let us say bioethics or ethics on whether we have to introduce GM technology or not. Even internal security, let us say there is a question like Armed Forces Special Powers Act, that also has an ethical component embedded in it. And as you have rightly asked me, so current affairs, let us take Konaseema caste violence. Konaseema caste violence can be analyzed if we try to see it in an administrative perspective, but the same Konaseema caste violence or may it be Agnipath's violence that has followed after the launching of the Agnipath scheme, we also can analyze it in the ethical lens. So, when we try to analyze it in the ethical lens, and the preparation of ethics will become seamless and it will become easy, and the application of the ethical concepts in answer writing will become easy, sir. And just to add one more idea to the schedule, I always suggest the students to do ethics as a daily dose. Of course, we have given a schedule. In the schedule, they will write the tests according to the way we have prepared the question. But what I suggest students, ethics is not a subject which has to be read in 7 days or 10 days. It should be a daily dose, because the so called ethical jargon, if they have to come easily onto the paper, they have to get exposed to the ethical ideas on constant basis, which they also have to learn it from picking the words from newspapers. And what I want to add is that they have to so schedule their preparation in such a way that every day they give at least 45 minutes to 1 hour for reading ethics and 15 minutes to write one ethics answer. So, by the time they reach our schedule, they will be fully prepared and they will get maximum out of our schedule, sir. So, these are inputs from my side, sir.
Okay. So, Dr. Sreedhar, can we expect any question in the general essay based on the history?
Yes, definitely. See, there have been questions related to culture. For example, now we have the issue of communalism, which is communal propaganda, or how do we safeguard the secular fabric of our country. Then we also have issues like increase in the marriageable age for the girls to so historical perspective, they may ask how has been the situation for women, position of women in India, or how do you see the cultural perceptions, cultural notions about women and marriage and gender. Most importantly, they may ask about the notion of caste and the religion, for which we need to have an historical understanding. So, definitely out of expected essay questions where we can take inputs from history, where we can take insights from history to get more marks are definitely possible, sir.
Fine, that's. And Dr. Sreedhar, even from the geography also there is a possibility of asking the questions in the general essay. So, how the candidate has to guess the possible general essay from the field of geography and environment together?
Yes, sir, in our general essay paper we are having multiple way of asking, either the social aspect, environment ecological aspect, international relations, or one philosophical aspect. So, certainly there is a scope of asking essay from geography and its sister subjects such as environment ecology. So, general essay, yes, it is possible, but based on the climate recent reports we are having, international agency report, we are having IPCC assessment report 6 is out, second edition of AR6 is also out. So, earlier the general essay can be asked in its ethical angle, economical angle, it's a social angle, and based on the core aspect also there is a possibility of asking the general essay, sir. For instance, recently we are having Central Water Commission report. So, based on that the question can be asked like this. So, as a statement based, nothing can quench thirst like that of water. In the recent, in connection with the recent CWC report, analyze the water scarcity or the water crisis facing by India in the near future. Something can be asked like this, or otherwise, according to IPCC, recently there was a statement, the largest, biggest threat the human community is going to face in the near future is the climate change. In the context of IPCC AR6 report, discuss or analyze, critically analyze, something can be asked like this. There is a possibility of 6th mass extinction by 2060. So, what are the probable options we are having? This can be asked in conservation or with respect to environmental protection. So, anything, whatever it appears as if it was directly asked from the ecology or environment or biodiversity, there is a clear cut element of geography. So, once you have one has to touch the geographical element, then you have to multiply integrate with the agency's reports, and in that statement the examiner mindset can also be easily understood. So, whatever, whether it was philosophically quoted or it was a quote given recently, Sadhguru's soil, save the soil campaign has been going on. For that he is moving into multinational, he is going with many connections, so many NGOs are also working for that. And so, in that the question can be asked like this. So, earlier we are having soil conservation problem. Recently there was a report, sir, global planet report, international planet report or global planet report. In that it was said about 70% of Indian soil biodiversity has been already lost. Indian soils are basically poor. All the 8 types of soils in India according to ICAR are basically poor. They are weak in their nitrogen content. That is why we have a larger dependence on importing of fertilizers. So, Indian soils have been exhausted, or something can be framed like this. Since Indus Valley civilization, soil exhaustion crops such as paddy has been growing. So, Indian soils are not healthy now. They need an immediate treatment. So, discuss the importance of soil conservation in India and what are the problems facing by Indian soils. And in this connection, government measures, government schemes, soil health card scheme, something like that, soil conservation, environment ecology, soil formation process, economy, agronomy of the soils, all this can be integrated in that essay. Yes, there is a certain chance of asking the general essay with respect to geography and its coordination with that of ecology and environments.
Yeah, Vivek, they say that many aspirants are saying like general essay for the past 3 years has completely changed in its trend. Yes. And they are saying that like the essays are based on the philosophical and ethical approach. But particularly I do not think it is completely only ethical oriented. A general essay must be written in general. Yeah. So, what kind of essays can be expected from this point of view this year also? Yes.
So, like if I have if aspirants have already seen 2021 essay paper, all the 8 topics are reflective topics or so called philosophical essays. That itself shows that ethics has the highest complementarity than other subjects when it comes to writing essays. And also, as you have rightly pointed out, it is not that it has to be written in an ethical perspective. Entire essay need not be written in an ethical perspective, but reflective topics, to analyze reflective topics and to bring them onto the paper, awareness on ethics and the ease with which they can recollect ethical jargon and put it on the paper, it is going to play a very significant role, sir. And it adds that flavor to the essay. It ensures that the flow of the essay is more sustained or more continuous, and it will help them in quickly identifying most of the dimensions or based on the theme of the essay, because that is what we constantly teach students whenever we ask them to approach reflective questions also in the ethics. In ethics also at least 4 to 5 questions, means basing from 30 to 50 marks, they are reflective questions. There we teach them how to write a good introduction, how to write a good conclusion, how to pull out dimensions after identifying the theme of this reflective topic. The approach or the strategy we teach them to attempt this so called reflective based topics in ethics will be very much helpful to them even to write an essay, sir. So, in this manner I strongly believe ethics has one of the highest complementarity when compared to any other general studies subjects when it comes to writing essays, sir.
So, in all, Sreedhar sir, this year we are witnessing the war between two countries.
Yes.
So, in this context, can we expect any question from the world history?
Because world history, the questions have been on Cold War and German unification, reunification, these kind of issues are being asked. In world history, for example, there have been questions on industrial revolution, there are questions on American War of Independence. Now, I think United Nations organization's ability to address the world issues could be definitely a question, sir. And what was the thinking earlier at the global day as well as national writers, if you see, there was a feeling that we would not expect any kind of war after the Second World War. There are issues like Gulf War and all that, even Kargil War, but these are not scalable wars. Now, that myth has been demystified. We have almost a war going on for more than 100 days now, right? So, what are the implications? So, definitely there could be questions like Cold War and NATO. We should have to revisit that from basics as well as current situation, how global political alliances are shifting in a day-to-day world of dynamic political economic issues, the issues like oil along with history. Now, can we say that is communism coming back, or what kind of communist state, if Russia is to be a communist state, if we can call it a market communist state, if we can call it, how do we see the realignment of Cold War and NATO? The kind of things are definitely expected, and United Nations ability to prevent any third world war could also be asked. Basic questions like what are the success and failure of United Nations? Now, United Nations could not do anything at the end of the day so far. So, despite all that, so a historical understanding of the developments from the end of Second World War till today, including the disintegration of USSR in 1991-92, they are very much possible.
Sreedhar, what questions that we can expect from disaster management?
So, regarding disaster management, there is a direct possibility of asking the disaster management architecture in India, Disaster Management Act 2005, some simple criticism or any kind of suggestions or strengthening the disaster management architecture system in India. The second one is disaster management cycle can also be asked. Usually that was a highly ignored subject, ignored aspect of disaster management. There is a disaster management cycle, sir, in the sense there is a proper steps to be taken, and not in the sense of handling the disaster. So, in mitigating the consequences of disaster, there is a proper steps from framing where the disasters are more frequently occurring, from identifying the zones of high vulnerability. So, from there onwards up to again re-bringing the society or that particular geographical region to its status quo or to its original position. There is a multiple ways of involving multiple agencies, and also multiple steps has to be taken by the government and also by the civil society. So, this disaster management cycle can also be expected, sir. And also disaster management regarding disasters, if we kept aside this kind of administrative or legislative mechanisms, then there is a direct way of asking the disaster also. Core level disasters can also be asked, because we are having.
Is there any specific incident or event, geographical event, that may motivate the examiner to give a question on the disaster?
Yes, sir. Recently, 2 days back, there was Afghanistan earthquake, sir. So, earthquakes can be expected, and Tonga volcano was there. Volcanic mechanism or the vulnerability of volcanoes can also be expected, and landslides, more common disasters in case of India. Landslides was also expected. There was floods in Assam. There was a very severe floods, and North India is facing the floods. So, these kind of direct disaster related questions can also be asked, and based on that some kind of integration, interlinking of rivers. So, at one point of time there was a very severe floods in North India, at the same time very severe droughts in South India. Why should not there should be connection between North Indian rivers or South Indian rivers. Already in 2020 it was asked, Ken Betwa Link Canal was there in news, that is why that question was asked, and Ken Betwa project was also challenged in the NGT, that is why it was asked. So presently we are having the floods, some kind of disasters in India also. Recently 1 year back there was a report regarding road accidents also. Ministry of Road Transport was also released the GDP cost of road accidents in India is roughly 1.3% of GDP according to Indian government, and according to the World Bank it is roughly 3.5%. Every 4 minutes there is one accident death, every 4 seconds there is one accident related some kind of economical cost was there. So keeping in mind, man-made disasters can also be directly shooted upon, or also the disaster management architecture and also the natural disasters is also favorable areas.
Vivek, during the last 1 year, we have been witnessing the courts imposing imprisonment to the civil servants. Even in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh also, scores of civil servants have been imposed punishment. Across the country also, this has become a common phenomenon. So can we expect a question on this particular aspect in the ethics paper?
Definitely. There is a possibility. It can be either in the form of a case study or a simple theoretical question also can be asked. So the question can be like, so what are the factors that are responsible for value degeneration among civil servants, or what are the specific measures that can be taken to instill values and ethics among civil servants, and what are the steps already taken by Government of India. Let us say Mission Karma Yogi government has launched. So what steps government can take? So it can instill naturally that code of ethics or code of conduct very much into the working style of the civil servants. Or it can also be a question like how to improve the relationship between politician and a civil servant, so that a civil servant need not be an S-man to a politician and has to take decisions autonomously, independent of getting influenced by politician, or how a civil servant should sustain neutrality. It could be political neutrality or neutrality, personal neutrality when it comes to taking decisions, so that he will not fall prey to enticements, so that he will not enticements of plum postings or transfers. So these kind of questions can definitely be asked, because it is a grave concern which the society is currently facing, that value degeneration among civil servants, and that is also the possible reason why some of them are getting incarcerated or coming in conflict with law, and they being arrested, jailed, and some of them are under trials. So this is the possible area, sir.
And the union government has also come up with a new cadre policy, where it was expected by the IAS cadre to work definitely for a few months in the central government. So is there a connectivity between this also, between the cadre policy and the ethics paper?
Yes, sir. Ethics is one such subject. We can identify the ethical perspective in everything and anything, sir, because it is very much a part of life. Let us say the question which you have asked regarding cadre policy. Cadre policy government has come up with because of this civil servants strong liking or inclination to remain in their home state. But when they have joined civil services, they have taken an oath that they are willing to serve the country, not just their state or their region which they come from. But of late we are seeing civil servants preferring to remain within their home states or preferring to remain within the state government, because this is where they enjoy prominence, they enjoy close connections with the politicians, whatever might be the motivation, but they always have this preference to remain in the state, and often it is written in the newspapers and also opined by the social scientists that the best quality civil servants are not willing to serve in Delhi. So it can be examined in the same perspective, sir. So they should have this strong sense of patriotism, strong sense of nationalist fervor to serve the whole nation, and they should think beyond this local or state level loyalties, and they have to have that broader national perspective. So they should be willingly move out to serve in the national capital, rather than just state trying to come up with a policy to forcefully or to coerce them to work in the national capital. So, a question can be like this, sir. What can we do to instill this sense of patriotism and this sense of broader national commitment among the civil servants is the kind of idea which we can think of, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.